evolved skin, connective tissue that has a specialized cognition, a secondary brain of its own, and a dedicated memory. This specialized cognition exists within the physiological framework of the skin and is interlaced with the cells of the skin, for example, the epidermis and the dermis. By virtue of this specialized skin, these men can absorb or dissolve or dematerialize any matter that exists in the universe upon touch via skin diffusion, and store the absorbed matter by converting the matter into a highly compressed form of energy within the skin. Matter is absorbed upon touch because that is the only sensation skin can experience. Every matter, solid, liquid, or gas is stored with a corresponding and unique vibrational frequency or spin, which is used by the specialized dermal cognition to identify or recognize the matter that caused or corresponds to the unique frequency or spin. More importantly, the dermal cognition uses the frequency or spin to rematerialize matter in its original or exact form, although in a structure different from the original. Also, these men consider the act of rematerializing matter as an art, because they need to train the dermal cognition to regenerate material in either its original structure or to create any structure of their fancy using the material. It's been a belief among these men that one who completely masters the ability can dematerialize or absorb an infinite amount of matter, and probably can be the only entity present in the universe like a moving black hole. It looks like an operation theater, but it's not. It looks more like an underground hideout for cover operations. The room is filled with intensive care equipment beeping vitals, including a patient and 2 surgeons, but no nurses. Apart from the overhead surgical lights illuminating the patient, the room is completely murky. One of the surgeons looks too weary and desperate, as if he had just performed an open-heart surgery but had not succeeded. He looks questioningly at the other surgeon, who gives him a jittery nod of his head. He then peels his gloves and monitors the vitals for a moment. Then, glancing one more time at the second surgeon, dips his right hand into the incision on the patient's chest. He had been preparing for this moment all his life, more so when his wife had a mild stroke 1.5 years back. They had tried everything but in vain. Finally, on his wife's consent but his reluctance, they had agreed to use his superhuman ability to restore her ruptured heart. His right hand felt a feeble but persistent movement against his skin, which made him cognizant of a beating pericardium. Using the skin on his palm, he delicately starts to dematerialize, rematerialize, deream the ruptured regions of the pericardium and the regions near the branching to the superior right pulmonary vein. Or is it the inferior right pulmonary vein? His mind was so weary with exhaustion. To his relief, one of the equipment start beeping her vitals, showing the pulses to be normal. But only half a minute later, her condition starts to deteriorate and her vitals flatline against his struggle to regain her. He screams into the void, not willing to give up. But the other surgeon, his brother-in-law, literally hauls him out to the corridor, explaining that they all knew it was inevitable. The husband of the deceased regains some composure and says, "I am not going to give up, Sam," with a determined look on his face. And then walks to the next room and says, "He is the only hope I have," peering through an opening in the doorway. He looks at his son in a cotton coverall with tiny mittens on his hands and feet. The mitten is partly torn, revealing the skin as if the missing shred had been scooped out of its place. Also, the child was nearly hairless. A child with this superhuman ability cannot exercise control at will, much less sleeping. "I know he will be better at this than me." "You are not thinking that, Zach," blurts his brother-in-law, Sam, with a horrified look on his face. "I can only survive with that hope.